Let's talk cannabis.
Okay.
All right. You don't smoke. I don't smoke. I've never
Oh,
smoked.
you don't either?
No, I've never smoked.
Yeah.
You've never smoked.
Yeah.
Why?
I just am not interested. I think, honestly, I think part of it is a little bit of a control thing because I've never been drunk either. I don't think I like the age.
Me either.
Wow.
I think we're control freaks.
Squares.
Yeah,
I think
we
I
are.
don't like the idea of being out of control. And I can't stand sloppy. When I see people being sloppy, I'm like, I don't like that. Yeah. But it's also part of what, obviously, being in the hip hop world, people are like, Sophia Chang walked in the door, whew, it's going to get taken care of.
Really?
Absolutely. Because I'm
You're
I'm
sober.
the glue, because I'm sober and
Right.
I'm always like, so I will count the money and I'm not going to fuck up. Right? Because
Right.
I'm not going to be like, well, where's I? Like 26.
Right.
what was it?
28,
Yeah.
9, 30. What? I got to start over. Yeah. Okay. But being around people who smoke a lot,
Yes.
have you seen over the 30 years a deterioration? Like, what has been the outcome of
Oh,
people
the
who
effect
smoke?
on them?
Yeah.
I haven't really seen an effect, although I will say I think for anybody that smokes any substance, I think it starts to affect your skin and alcohol too. So I think in our 20s and 30s, so let's say you and I, Karen, we smoked and we drank heavily, and let's say we did whatever drugs. I think in our 20s and 30s it doesn't really show. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but people that were heavy drug users or heavy smokers or heavy drinkers in their 40s,
It shows up.
I think it shows up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once you do that, and here's the thing about time, you can't get it back.
You don't get it back,
And you
yeah.
can't undo it.
The toothpaste is out of the tube.
Right. And so, we try to prevent things from
Yes.
happening. On the cannabis space, you said you were involved in cannabis.
A little bit,
How?
yeah. I worked at a company for a little while. It was a really short time, but I'm really curious, Karen. So I tried to learn as much as possible, and I tried to be in the spaces where I could learn as much as possible. And one of the things that I learned that I wanted to tell you about. So obviously, marijuana is not federally legal. It is still a Schedule I drug, which is preposterous.
Schedule 1 is
Is very, very high. I mean, it's up there with LSD, it's up there with cocaine, it's up there with heroin. And one of the qualifiers for being a Schedule I drug is that it's highly addictive. Weed is not highly addictive. I do believe it's addictive. It's not addictive like that stuff is. So Florida recently came online and awarded licenses. And it was a very racist process, because one of the things that because it's all state run, okay, that they demanded was that you had to be a farmer for 30 consecutive years. And almost no black farmers had done that. And it's written in a way, right, that is designed to keep black folks out of the industry. And so the Black Growers Association, I don't know who heads it. I just had it on my phone. The Black Growers Association of Florida, they actually took issue with it, as they should, and
30
took it up.
consecutive years.
30 consecutive years. And they took it up. And as a result of their, as we were talking about, change, right, and being vocal and being the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. And then I think that Florida's black growers specifically were awarded 6 licenses, and you had to be a black grower. Somewhere also in, I believe it's East Oakland, I believe the mayor of East Oakland at one point was a black woman, and she said half of the licenses, and I'm not going to get all the details right, you guys, but I just kind of want to get across the notion of a little bit of restorative justice here, right? Her idea was, and she legislated this, that half of the forthcoming cannabis licenses had to go to the communities that were the most deeply impacted by the draconian war on drugs. To me, that should be across the whole country.
Yes, but we have to demand it.
Absolutely.
Because who's going to give away billions of dollars to people that they don't value anyway?
Exactly. If you don't have millions of dollars, if you are not politically well-heeled, if you are not connected, if you don't have a direct line into that, and again, if you don't have the money to hire the lobbyists and the attorneys and everything, the barrier to entry is extremely, extremely high, and it necessarily makes it very difficult for the black and brown folks. And like I said, to me, everybody in cannabis should be thanking hip hop because they made it so
Absolutely.
mainstream.
Why is this a viable business, right? And I'm asking a very large question because I want people to understand the anatomy of, I get a license to grow.
Right.
How does that equal billions of dollars?
Well, there are different licenses, Karen. So there's a cultivation license, there is a retail license. So it's different by every state. So in Massachusetts, which is the model that I think many of the East Coast states followed as opposed to the West Coast, because the West Coast was much more kind of open season, Wild West, so to speak. In Massachusetts, I believe it's a vertical license, and you can do all three of those things. You can cultivate, you can sell, you can have a retail license, and and I think it's also an extraction license. And the reason why it stands to be so lucrative, think about, did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
Of course.
Okay.
Nookie is
Nucky.
Chalky.
Yes.
Chalky White.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember, oh yeah, Michael Chunky was so good. Remember that was right at the end of Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember who came in, one of the characters in the show was Joe Kennedy.
Kennedy, yes.
And you remember that, think about the families, Seagrams, the Kennedys. They made so much money, because where do you want to be at the end of Prohibition? I want to be making the shit that people have been moonshining and bootlegging, because I know there's a demand for it. And so people have been smoking, selling, growing weed illegally for a long time, and now again it's legalized in many states, but still not federally. So if I'm a really, really savvy business person, and if I cared about money much more than I do, and I just did something purely for money, I would absolutely look at the cannabis industry and say, federal legalization, that's an inevitability. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care which administration, who is running. It is the ship has sailed. California, in and of itself, as of a few years ago, California was over 50% of North America's cannabis money. That's one state. So imagine when it goes federally legal. But this is what's going to happen, Karen. So the big banks aren't touching cannabis right now. They can't, right? So the big investors, the Morgan Stanleys, the UBS, none of them, they can't touch weed yet. But the second that and they're already looking, they're sniffing, they're smelling, they're not stupid. The second that it goes federally legal, then the big banks come in. I think big tobacco comes in. I think big pharma comes in. And so if you're not already in it, you will be precluded from being in it, because I can't compete with them.
Right.
But if you're really savvy, and if you're in the know, and if you are in the midst of the deal flow and the deals, and you're smart about it, you stand to make a lot of money. And again, I don't care if you make money. I don't give a shit. Okay? There's no other industry that I feel this passionately about other than cannabis. All right? I don't give a shit about the tech boys, the white boys in tech. They made billions of dollars. Go make your money. Go ahead. I don't care. Because as far as I know, there are not black and brown men rotting in jail from doing tech, right? Who basically helped you create a custom and an industry and a culture that's now going to make you billions of dollars. Weed is that industry, to my knowledge.
So how do we, and I've been toying with, talking about it in different ways. And I was thinking, if we just stop using, because we over-index in every area. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we stop using, then they won't have a market, right? Possibly. And at least they won't have a market off of us. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just thinking about ways we can empower ourselves if we don't have the licenses, if we're not getting in the business to make the billions of dollars. How does it positively impact our community to have this out here?
I don't know that divestment, Karen, I don't know if that's the model I would recommend. I mean, this is really me talking from such an armchair, pedestrian position. I think that what the Black Growers Association did in Florida is amazing, right? I think that all non-criminal drug offenders should be let the fuck out of jail. Let them out of jail. Give them access to the jobs in the industry that fucking put them in there. Right? And also, when people talk about diversity, this goes back to our thing about diversity and inclusion. All right? First of all, I don't just want to see diversity. It can't just be that I see people of color in the company. I need the people of color at the table making the decisions. I need the people of color in the fucking C-suite. Because otherwise, I totally appreciate that there is a mixture of people at the more junior levels and in middle management. But unless we are sitting at the table, it is meaningless. So you don't get to fucking pat yourself on the back for having people of color at your company if you are not empowering them. Because what we know, Karen, is that the power resides in the center. Therefore, we who are on the margins of that center, we don't have access. And we can't influence the decisions that are being made there. So let people into the fucking center. Let the people on the margins, let the people of color sit at that table. Let them speak their piece. Let them tell you what their experience is as somebody who's in a family whose father, brother, whatever, uncle or son has been convicted for carrying however much weed as it is in jail for some insane amount of time. And give him a job. Do some sort of community outreach, because this is what I think. You guys are going to make billions and billions of dollars. Put that back in the community that was most harmed by the industry that you are now profiting off of. Again, I don't really begrudge you making the money, but turn around and give it back.
And it's been my experience that power is never giving anything.
Right.
We have to take it and demand it.
Right.
So that's where the struggle comes.
Yeah, and so
they're not
No.
inclined to do this.
No.
Why?
Of course not. Exactly. So what does it mean? Do I shame the shit out of you?
Yes.
I don't have a fucking problem shaming the
Yes.
shit out of you, because this is what I know. At 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, people aren't really going to undergo profound ideological, philosophical shifts. But if I shame the shit out of you and you do it, I'm Gucci with that.
Are you Gucci with that?
I am so good with that. So what I would like to see, Karen, is I would like to see every one of these big businesses have to take up, because you know that every big corporation now has CSR, right? A corporate social responsibility. I think that's what it's called. And so I want it to be de rigueur that if you have a cannabis business, that you have to have a program that a certain percentage of your employees are people of color.
Real affirmative action, not the fake one that got
Exactly.
white women everything that they...
Exactly. Because white women, in terms of diversity and inclusion, that's not enough for me.
Especially the 53%ers.